I'm Miss Bridget and welcome to Preschool Storytime. Before we get started, let me tell you what's happening on this channel. So on Tuesdays, Miss Farmery is leading Babies at Books at 9:30. On Wednesday, also at 9:30, we have Stories for 2s and 3s. On Thursday, you're with me at 9:30 for Preschool Storytime. Tomorrow at 6 p.m. will be Miss Sage's last pajama storytime because next week we will start having family and all ages story times at 9:30 a.m. every Friday. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel and also hit the bell icon so you get notified every time that we post a new video. I would like to thank Candlewick Press for their permission to read their story today. It is truly one of my very favorites. Now let's get started. I think we'll sing a little hello song. So let's get those hands all warmed up for our hello song. All right, our hello song has a little bit of sign language in it. It has the sign for hello, our little salute like this. And it also has the sign for friends, one finger on each hand, and then we make them crisscross like this, like they're best friends. All right, so here we go on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. It's time to say hello. Well, we've sung our hello song, so I think we should get some wiggles out, shall we? Let's start by wiggling the fingers. Okay, what about wiggling the toes? Can we wiggle the toes? Alrighty, can you wiggle your shoulders? That's a really nice, fun thing to do. Get that tension out of there. And can you wiggle your nose? Wiggle, 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 wiggle. What about without the finger? Can we try without the finger? Here we go. Pretty good. Now there are no more wiggles left in me, and I will sit as still can be for our story today. And that story is Library Lion, a book that is so special to me, I thought it would be the one story I shared with you today because it's a brand new copy and you get to be the first to have it read to you. So let's dive into Library Lion. Our story begins with a lion. Library Lion. One day, a lion came into the library. He walked right past the circulation desk and up into the stacks. Mr. McBee ran down the hallway to the head librarian's office. "Miss Merriweather," he called. "No running," said Miss Merriweather without looking up. "But there's a lion," said Mr. McBee, "in the library." "Is he breaking any rules?" Miss Merriweather asked. She was very particular about rule breaking. "Well, no," said Mr. McBee, "not really." "Well, then leave him be," she said. The lion wandered all around the library. He sniffed the card catalog. He rubbed his head against the new book collection. And then he padded over to the story corner and went to sleep. And no one was sure what to do. There weren't any rules about lions in the library. Soon it was time for story hour, and there weren't any rules about lions at story hour either. The story lady seemed a little nervous, but she read out the first book's title in a good, clear voice. Then the lion looked up, and the story lady kept reading, and the lion stayed for the next story, and the story after that, and he waited for another story. But the children began to walk away. "Story hour is over," a little girl told him. "It's time to go." The lion looked at the children. He looked at the story lady. He looked at the closed books, and then he roared a very loud roar. Roar! "Do you think we're allowed to roar in the library?" "I don't think so." Miss Merriweather came striding out of her office. "Who is making all that noise?" she demanded. "It's the lion," said Mr. McBee. Miss Merriweather marched over to the lion. "If you cannot be quiet, then you will have to leave," she said in a stern voice. "Those are the rules." The lion kept roaring, but he sounded sad. The little girl tugged on Miss Merriweather's dress. "If he promises to be quiet, can he come back for story hour tomorrow?" she asked. Well, the lion stopped roaring, and he looked at Miss Merriweather. Miss Merriweather looked back. Then she said, yes, a nice, quiet lion would certainly be allowed to come back for story hour tomorrow. "Hooray!" said the children. And so, the next day, the lion came back. "You are early," said Miss Merriweather. "Story hour's not until 3 o'clock." But the lion did not budge. "Very well," said Miss Merriweather. "You might as well make yourself useful." And so she sent him off to dust the encyclopedias until it was time for story hour. The next day, the lion came back early again. And this time, Miss Merriweather asked him to lick all the envelopes for her overdue notices. He was very good at that job. Soon, the lion began doing things without being asked. He dusted the encyclopedias, he licked the envelopes, he let small children stand on his back to reach books off the highest shelves. And then he curled up in the story corner and to wait for story hour to begin. At first, the people in the library were nervous about the lion, but soon they got used to having him around. In fact, he seemed very well suited to the library. His big feet were quiet on the library floor. He made a comfy backrest for the children at story hour, and he never, ever roared in the library anymore. "What a helpful lion," the people said, and they patted his soft head as he walked by. "How did we ever get along without him?" Mr. McBee scowled when he heard that. They had always gotten along fine before. No lions were needed. Lions, he thought, could not understand rules, and they did not belong in the library. What do you think? Do lions belong in the library? One day, after he had dusted all the encyclopedias and licked all the envelopes and helped all the small children, the lion padded down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office to see what else there was to do. There was still some time left before story hour. "Hello, Lion," said Miss Merriweather. "Oh, I know something you can do. You can bring a book back into the stacks for me. Let me just get it down from this shelf." Miss Merriweather stepped up onto the step stool. The book was just out of reach. Miss Merriweather stood on her toes. She stretched out her fingers. "Almost there," she said. And then Miss Merriweather stretched a little too far. "Ouch," said Miss Merriweather softly, but she did not get up. "Mr. McBee," she called after a minute. "Mr. McBee!" But Mr. McBee was at the circulation desk. He could not hear her calling. "Lion," said Miss Merriweather, "please go and get Mr. McBee." And Lion ran down the hall. "No running," Miss Merriweather called after him. But Lion couldn't help himself. The lion put his big front paws on the circulation desk and looked at Mr. McBee. "Go away, Lion. I'm busy," said Mr. McBee. The lion whined. He pointed his nose down the hall towards Miss Merriweather's office, but Mr. McBee ignored him. Finally, the lion did the only thing he could think to do. He looked Mr. McBee right in the eye, then he opened his mouth really wide, and he roared the loudest roar he had ever roared in his entire life. Roar! It was so loud, it knocked his glasses right off. Uh-oh, Mr. McBee gasped. "You're not being quiet," he said to the lion. "You're breaking the rules." And Mr. McBee walked down the hall as fast as he could. The lion did not follow him. He had broken the rules, and he knew what that meant. He hung his head and walked toward the doors. Mr. McBee did not notice. "Miss Merriweather," he called as he walked. "Miss Merriweather, the lion broke the rules. The lion broke the rules." He burst into Miss Merriweather's office, but she was not in her chair. "Miss Merriweather?" he asked. "Sometimes," Miss Merriweather said from the floor behind her desk, "there's a good reason to break the rules, even in the library. Now please go call the doctor. I think I've broken my arm." And Mr. McBee ran down the hallway to call the doctor. "No running," called Miss Merriweather after him. The next day, things were almost back to normal. Almost. Miss Merriweather's left arm was in a cast, and the doctor had told her not to work too hard. "I'll have my lion to help me," she thought to herself. But the lion did not come to the library that morning. And at 3 o'clock, Miss Merriweather walked to the story corner. The story lady was just beginning a story for the children, but the lion was not there. People in the library kept looking from their books and computer screens, hoping they would see a familiar furry face. But the lion did not come that day. The lion did not come the next day either, or the day after that. One evening, Mr. McBee stopped by Miss Merriweather's office on his way out. "Can I get you anything before I go, Miss Merriweather?" he asked her. "No, thank you," said Miss Merriweather, and she was looking out the window. Her voice was very quiet, even for the library. Mr. McBee frowned as he walked away, and he thought there was probably something he could do for Miss Merriweather after all. Mr. McBee left the library, but he did not go home. Instead, he walked around the neighborhood. He looked under cars, he looked behind bushes, he looked in backyards and trash cans and tree houses. Who could he be looking for? Finally, he circled all the way back to the library. The lion was sitting outside, looking through the glass doors. "Hello, lion," said Mr. McBee. The lion did not turn around. "I thought you might like to know," said Mr. McBee, "that there's a new rule at the library. No roaring allowed, unless you have a very good reason. Say, if you're trying to help a friend who's been hurt, for example." The lion's ears twitched, and he turned around, but Mr. McBee was already walking away. The next day, Mr. McBee walked down the hall to Miss Merriweather's office. "What is it, Mr. McBee?" asked Miss Merriweather in her new, sad, quiet voice. "I thought you might like to know," said Mr. McBee. "There's a lion in the library." Miss Merriweather jumped up from her chair and ran down the hallway. Mr. McBee smiled. "No running," he called after her. But Miss Merriweather did not listen. Sometimes there was a good reason to break a rule, even in the library. And that's the end of Library Lion. Hey friends, let's warm our hands up for one of my favorite songs. It's called Zoom, Zoom, Zoom. Now let's see, can you clap like this with me? Okay. We're clapping. Now, I can't get out of my little chair here, but we can march at home for our next part, or we can walk our little astronaut up our arm. And last but not least, we're gonna get down way low, and then we're gonna blast off when we count down from 3 to 1. All right, so our song goes like this. Zoom, 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 we're going to the moon. Zoom, 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 we'll get there very soon. Now we climb. If you want to take a trip, climb aboard my rocket ship. Zoom, 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 we're going to the moon. Zoom, 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 we'll get there very soon. All right, everyone get down way low. All right, we're gonna blast off in 3, 2, 1, blast off! All right, good job, friends. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining me for Preschool Storytime today. I'm so happy you took the time out of your day to hang out with me. I will see you all next week on Thursday at 9:30 a.m. And don't forget to tune in to the other awesome virtual story times we have going up on this channel Tuesday through Friday every week. Bye-bye.